South African elections, and if we say that every vote counts, how can it be that 10.4 million votes of Black voters who chose Black-led parties to govern South Africa, how can these votes be overlooked in the election of our government and our president? And why is it that the DA, with only 3.5 million votes, which only sways about 21.8% from the white minority, is given so much power by business and media to dictate the terms, conditions, and structure of our government? And so I think we should reflect on the words of Samara Machel here, and he said, if one day you hear whites speak well of me, know that I have betrayed you. So any Black man that is constantly being praised and recognized by a white man is essentially a sellout. And I think that is going to tell the history of South Africa. Yes, certainly it is a very tumultuous time for us here in South Africa. We're actually standing at the precipice because we're not quite sure exactly what is going to happen. There are a different couple of scenarios that are beginning to come forward. And quite frankly, at the moment, the two that are touted the most are quite scary. What we see in the election is that people have been yearning for human well-being and social justice. And they came out to vote. Significantly, in 2019, the youth vote was the most apathetic. The youth simply were disillusioned and didn't come out to vote. But this time around, although the numbers are not significantly higher, but the two parties that have youth leaders and are championing with youth politicians, being the EFF and the MK, we saw that there has been, significant support for them. But what needs to be understood is that although people are touting the MK vote as tribalism, it's not necessarily tribalism. It's possibly also indigeneity, because collectively the ANC, the EFF, and the MK received like 10.4 million votes, which represents 65% of the Black majority population in South Africa. And combined, they have 256 seats of the 400 seats in the National Assembly. Now, what South Africans are essentially telling the ANC is that we're very angry with you. You have let us down. We're opting for another party because we want to punish you. But at the same time, they're opted for indigeneity. So they didn't go towards the DA, Democratic Alliance, or a political party that is aligned with the West, with imperialism, with coloniality, or a party that signifies a return to apartheid, because that's exactly what the Democratic Alliance signifies for us at the moment. If we see the way in which it has responded to Israel-Palestine, its reluctance to condemn the Israeli government, and yet, they're a political party in South Africa. We know what apartheid has been like. We know what racism is about. We know what a slow genocide is, because the Black people in South Africa were also exposed to circumstances which was working towards eradicating them altogether. So what we find is that, if these three parties, that is the ANC, the EFF, come together, then for the good of the nation, then we have a good scenario. But what is also very scary, and what I personally am of the opinion, is that the MK was actually boosted in order to bring about foreign imposed regime change in South Africa. And ideally what this does is you put two Black men to fight against each other, and then you destroy the system. And in a way, you give legitimacy to another process. And that's what's happening right now in South Africa. All the news media, which is run by majority of the Western mainstream media, is backed by the US, by the Zionists. They are all pushing forward to the agenda that South Africa, that the ANC should align itself with the Democratic Alliance. Now, the Democratic Alliance is that particular political party which wrote to American legislators and told them that they must come and oversee our election. The DA is that political party which allegedly brought Americans twice to meet with IEC, that is our Electoral Commission officers, and meetings were held for which there's been no transparency, no clear understanding of why they were here in South Africa. What we also know is that Victoria Nuland, the American American politician, is the same person who's has been described as a doomsday or a death warrant for a country, because she was present with Bush when Saddam was killed. She was present with Obama when Gaddafi was killed, and she also was there orchestrating regime change in Ukraine. And she's been very present in South Africa since 2019. So there has been, calls in South Africa to say that if Victoria Nuland is here, certainly they're orchestrating some kind of foreign imposed regime change. And significantly, I am of that opinion. And if South Africa opts to go with the DA coalition, one must remember that it's going to be destroying all the years of building South Africa as a global South champion. It's going to affect and significantly weaken our position in BRICS Plus, because you're now exposing BRICS Plus to the Western influence, but not so much so, but you now become an ear for the West, for imperialism, for the terrorist US state and its Zionist backers inside the BRICS position. And domestically, in terms of South Africa's stance, South Africans are significantly anti-West, and this has shown in the elections. So if the Zionist elite managed to convince Ramaphosa's government to go into a coalition with them, rather than going into a coalition with the other pro-African, pan-African parties such as the EFF, the IFP, Rise Mzansi, etc., there's many options that the ANC can go for, which will give it seats over 200 and give it that majority to form the coalition. Rather than with the DA, what we're going to have is a very, very, I would say, heartbreaking, not even heartbreaking, but a disgusting situation for South Africa. South Africans are going to go back to being the garden boys and the tea girls of the Western imperial terrorist regimes. The Zionist elite will take control over most of our government and succeeded in making sure that they take away the independence from South Africa and return us to the shackles of Western tyranny. So the ANC needs to do what the Asian Tigers did, that they had done initially when they sought their independence. And if the ANC has the vision to do that, then they can truly make South Africa great in all ways without surrendering us back to the imperialists and to the Western terrorists. We have to understand that we either give our hard-won freedom away to neoliberal markets, which is what is being touted very strongly in South Africa at the moment. All the newspapers, all the media, everybody's talking about how business is looking forward to an ANC-DA collaboration, basically saying, in simple words, looking forward to the ANC giving control of South Africa to the Zionists. And so we either give away our hard-won freedom to these neoliberal markets and the apostles of Western power and exploitation, or we courageously bring together our brothers and sisters from across the liberation divide. And there's plenty of them who want to work and form a government of 70% liberation movement parties. And that moment is now. So that is where we stand. For me, it's a very, very scary time. It's the first time I'm exceptionally anxious. And honestly, I think that, South Africans, the will of the South Africans is not that a coalition government should govern them. They have realized that the coalition government is the outcome of the result of the fact that the ruling party has not listened to them and has failed them. So we have to sit back and think really significantly about what it is that we're going to do if the ANC makes the wrong choice.